What is up, everyone? Welcome to this week's episode of What's in the Box Score. I am your host, Rick Wiener, joined as always by my co-host, Mark Rollins, right there in the Nationals shirt. But we're not going to start with the Nationals, Mark. We got to talk about how Vladimir Guerrero's not human. I'm sorry, Vlad Jr., because we know his father's not human.
No.
Vlad proved, without a shadow of a doubt, last night that the man's not human, hitting 3 home runs, 2 of them missing a finger, basically.
Mm-hmm.
He's insane. He's absolutely far and away the most exciting player in baseball, and I don't think it's close.
I would tend to agree with it's between him and Juan Soto for me. Those are the two guys.
Oh, yeah, I mean, and it's no, I'm not throwing shade at Soto or Trout or anyone.
Yeah,
but,
or Ohtani.
But Vlad, I mean, his finger was dripping.
It was basically like falling off. It was just gushing blood. I believe it was Aaron Hicks that stepped on him, if I remember correctly. So Aaron Hicks, you're a scumbag. But no, it was that second home run he hit last night. And the first one was great because, it pops in and out of Aaron Hicks's glove. Is it a home run? Is it a double? It's a home run, by the way. If you think that's a double, you don't know the rules of baseball.
It's not like fan interference.
Yeah. But then Hicks steps on him, and then he takes a 98-mile-an-hour pitch from Garrett Cole that's like 8 inches inside, pulls his hands in further than I've ever seen a hitter pull his hands in, and hits a nuke into the bullpen in left field. I mean, I'll see if I can get the video.
It was unbelievable to watch. It was unbelievable to rewatch because I didn't realize how inside that pitch really was. I knew it was inside. Yeah. I didn't know it was that inside. It's freakish what this guy did. I mean, look at this. This is just bonkers.
Look at where the K zone has that pitch. And then the swing he puts on, like when he makes contact with it right there. I'm trying to stop it. Look where his hands are.
That's crazy.
They're an inch away from his body. And he just
swinging a drive, deep left field. Get up, ball, get out of here.
The sound off the bat. Still the best sound ever.
He is unbelievable. And you're right. We knew that this guy was not human because we remember watching his father play. And that guy was very much not human. I mean, I've never seen anyone like hit a ball that bounced before. Like that was the type of stuff that his father did. Also, interesting little nugget about him and his dad. Through 350 career games, they have the same amount of RBIs.
Wow. That's wild.
Which Jim Passon, by the way, for any fans out there that aren't following him, if you are a fan of really quite stupid baseball statistics that no one else cares about, this is the guy to go to because he's got it all. He's got everything.
Yeah, he is a great follow for just random stats that you would never think of, that you're just like, holy crap.
But I was in utter disbelief when I saw that ball he hit for that second home run. I mean, who does that? No one does that.
No.
Juan Soto doesn't do that. Mike Trout doesn't do that. Bryce Harper doesn't do that. Shohei Ohtani doesn't do. No one can do that except for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and maybe his father when he was playing. Those are the 2 people I remember ever watching play that can hit a ball like that.
Yeah, and let's not forget, he didn't hit that off of Jordan Montgomery.
That's Garrett Cole.
Yeah, that's Garrett freaking Cole, one of the best pitchers in baseball.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he shouldn't be able to do that.
I thank my lucky stars every day that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is the guy we all thought he was going to be when he was coming up.
Yeah. And didn't he say something in spring training? Like last year was the preview. This year you get to see the whole movie.
Yeah. Last year when he almost won the Triple Crown and stole the MVP off of a guy that threw 130 innings and hit 48 home runs. Yeah. That guy, He's, I mean, what do we think? 55 home runs this year for Vlad if he gets hot?
It's certainly possible.
Like, this guy is, it seems like generational talent is thrown around a lot these days, which is weird because you should only throw it around about once every generation.
Yeah,
But,
otherwise it kind of loses its meaning.
Yeah. But in baseball right now, I'd say we've got like 5 that are true generational talents. And this guy's one of them. I mean, this is the type of baseball player that doesn't just come around every 5 years. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is the type of hitter that, is really, 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 really special. And
agreed. So let's name them off. Who are the 5? With Vlad for sure.
Mm-hmm. I'd say Ohtani, obviously, because no one has ever done what he does.
Mm-hmm. Trout. I mean, Trout's still in the conversation.
Yeah, Trout is 100% one of them. Juan Soto, just because I think he's 22-year-old Ted Williams. And then I wouldn't throw Harper in there, which is strange, despite the fact he's a 2-time MVP.
Yeah, I'm hard pressed to throw Harper in that conversation too.
He was supposed to be, and like I said, guys, 2-time MVP, and I personally think he's on his way to Cooperstown when his career is over. But
I don't think there's any doubt.
Yeah,
he's going to Cooperstown. I mean, writers love him. He's nothing. I mean, every time he opens his mouth, you could have gold.
Yeah, this is true.
For that alone, they'll vote for him.
And I'd say those are the 4 right now that I can solidify as generational talents. So
yeah, I would agree with with that. I would have argued with you if you threw out a 5th.
Yeah, and the fact 2 of them play on the same team, and that team's going to win 82 games. So,
which is wild. It's absolutely wild. Yeah, they're a 500 team. Like, has there ever been a more mismanaged team than the Angels?
No,
and it's not. And
for 20 years.
Yeah, and it's not Joe Madden's fault.
No,
and it's not Mike Trout's fault. It's Artie Moreno doesn't have a clue what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
He's like I don't know what he's like. He's infuriating.
He's, it's so strange because, like I said, they won the World Series 20 years ago. It's the 20th anniversary of when they beat the Giants. And ever since then, it's like they've had all this talent.
He just refuses to get pitching. He flat out refuses to spend money on pitching.
He had Jared Weaver for 3 years, and it was like, oh, man, this is great. This guy's winning 20 games, and he's in the Cy Young conversation. Why do people say we need pitching? Because you have 1 pitcher on your entire roster.
Yeah, and you need like 8.
Yeah, you had Jared Weaver and K-Rod. And it was like, oh yeah, I'm fine. I've got the ace starter and the frontline closer. It's like,
okay, so he has the front. He's got the frontline closer because Raisel Iglesias is terrific,
and yeah, he's filthy. Shohei is a frontline starter when he pitches, which
but he's not going to give you 200 innings. He's not going to make 30 starts. No, because his bat's too valuable.
Yeah,
you have no idea what Syndergaard's going to be in 2 weeks, much less 2 months.
He looked good in his first start.
He looked very good in his first start. I mean, he went toe to toe with Verlander.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Verlander, who's making his first start in 2 years, looked fantastic.
It was Justin Verlander. I couldn't believe it. It was
like there was no rust. It was weird because I expected to see like a guy who hasn't pitched in 2 years.
Yeah,
and it looked like a guy who literally had a full spring training.
Full credit to my buddy Zach Nunez because he has been riding this Verlander train the entire offseason. He picked him as a Cy Young candidate. He drafted him in fantasy baseball. He was like, this is still Justin Verlander. And it looks like he's still just Justin Verlander.
Yeah, I mean, you don't need much better analysis than that. I mean, he's right. I mean, Verlander looks like primetime Verlander, which completely changes my outlook on the Astros.
Yes, it does.
If that's the guy that they're going to have all season.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's 1 start. I mean, we don't want to overreact to 1 start.
Yeah.
Again, let's see how he holds up in a month.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's see where he's at. But I mean, he looked terrific out of the gate. Cleveland, I don't understand. Can you explain Cleveland to me?
I'm glad because we forgot to mention this team during our little pre-show meeting.
Yeah,
This
and
team,
I completely forgot to mention them yesterday in the Man-Child show.
yeah, I mean, this team
Aside from Stephen Kwan,
who I love Stephen Kwan. I picked him up in fantasy baseball.
Oh, so did I. I picked them up. I've gotten nothing but nasty text messages.
Yep. As soon as I picked him up, everyone was like, "You son of a bitch!" I was like, "Hey, he was there, man. I only did it a few days ago. He's like, I did it 2 days before he swung and missed." So, this team is, I don't think it's sustainable at all.
No, neither do I.
I still think this is a very much not a good team. But man, they look good. That offense looks really good.
Yeah, it really does. And I think people forget that starting staff really wasn't terrible.
No,
You know, a healthy Bieber is one of the best pitchers in the game. Tristan McKenzie, people forget he was a top prospect for a while.
I love Tristan McKenzie.
You know, like he's gonna be a legitimate piece for that squad. But like you said, I mean, they're relying on guys like Stephen Kwan and Owen Miller. Like we all know, Jose Ramirez is a stud.
Yeah,
Franmil Reyes. They've done this with Franmil Reyes literally doing nothing.
Nothing. He
Absolutely
looks lost.
nothing. Yeah, he looks lost, and so does his score on my fantasy team for the first 2 weeks of the season. Because I was like, oh, sweet. I'm like, Cleveland's going to stink, but I'm going to get their two best bats. So I drafted Ramirez and I drafted Reyes. And Ramirez has been a monster, and Reyes is like, all right, I got to pick Stephen Kwan up because he's going to be my DH next week.
You get that with
Franmil.
You get that with him. He's such a streaky hitter. He rarely starts the season off hot.
Yeah, but I mean, what did they score the other day? They scored like
14.
Yeah, there's 17 runs and he did nothing.
Yeah,
he literally did nothing. Like, how does Cleveland score 17 runs with 0 from Franmil Reyes? It's nuts.
Yeah, it is nuts, but like I said, I don't think the offense is sustainable in the slightest. I think Jose Ramirez is going to be an MVP candidate. I think Franmil Reyes will hit his 30-35 bombs, but outside of that,
yeah, look, I think Kwan
maybe Stephen Kwan is, maybe he's actually good, and we were all just ignoring it throughout spring training. But
yeah, I mean, there was, I think I mentioned it yesterday. There was one former scout on Twitter who was repeatedly throughout spring training, he kept mentioning Stephen Kwan, and I was just like, all right, like, okay, like you're not telling me anything other than that he looks like a player.
Yeah.
All right, well, okay, that's good. He's a player. But yeah, like, I mean, do we really think Kwan, Owen Miller, Oscar Mercado, that these guys are all gonna, be like this? Are they all gonna be all-stars? No, they're not.
The one I like to think this is just Oscar Mercado finally taking that leap. This
Oscar Mercado screwed me in fantasy last year. I have an unnatural dislike for the man, and I hope this is not his coming out party because I will have been a year early on him.
Yeah, I like to think that, I don't think he's gonna, keep hitting these. He's got 3 home runs already, I think, 2 or 3.
Yeah.
I don't think he's gonna keep doing that, but this could be our first look at like, hey, wait a minute, maybe Oscar Mercado is actually, more than just a good defensive outfielder. He can.
Yeah, I mean, he had, people loved him as a prospect. Like, hey, he may not be a stud hitter, but he's got enough to contribute. But yeah, he has as many home runs as Jose Ramirez, and 3 more home runs than Franmil Reyes. Franmil hitting $179, killing me.
It's the definition of it's still early.
Yes, no, for sure, absolutely. Because otherwise, I would be very, very angry man right now that my fantasy team that got A+ from CBS for my draft was projected to score all the points in the world is going to lose this week to a team that has O'Neal Cruz as their starting shortstop. O'Neal Cruz, who remains in the minor leagues and has accrued 0 points. So yeah, that's how that's gone. But yeah, I mean, I think other than Cleveland, well, I guess Colorado. There really hasn't been a huge surprise with teams that got off the hot starts. Like the Rockies have looked pretty good. I mean, 4-1. Nobody thought they'd ever be 3 games over 500 at any point this season.
Yeah, I just quickly. So remember a little while ago when we talked about how they signed Chris Bryant, and like I tweeted out, I said I've never understood a Rockies offseason. This is like month and a half ago.
Yeah.
Ever since then, Twitter, you need to fix your tweets you might like algorithm. It's all tweets about the Colorado Rockies. I'm more kept up on the Rockies than I am the Red Sox, because it's like my entire timeline on Twitter is just tweets about the Rockies. And it's not like tweets from the Rockies. It's Rockies fans that are just talking about the Rockies. And I'm like, I have had to hit, like, I'm not interested in this tweet 150 times. And my timeline is still flooded with Colorado Rockies content. Listen, no offense to the Rockies. There aren't many teams in Major League Baseball I care less about than the Colorado Rockies. Just a team that I really do not care how many games they win. I don't care who pitches, whatever. I'm going to follow them because I follow every team, but stop flooding me with Rockies content Twitter. It's really annoying.
Yeah, maybe you should send a tweet to Elon.
Elon, if you're, I know you're watching
since
Elon.
Apparently he's buying Twitter now.
Elon, I know you're a big fan of the show. I know you're watching
huge
right
fan.
now.
Huge You're welcome to come on and talk baseball whenever you want, pal.
Please. I don't know if you know what baseball is, but if you do, you can come and talk about it. And so Elon, my friend, my close personal friend, Mr. Musk, please fix this. Stop showing me nothing but Rockies content.
Now you're going to start getting like nothing but Cincinnati Reds content once he hears that. He's going to be like, he can't argue with me because I got rid of the Colorado Rockies, but it's still the same initials. So we don't have to mess with the algorithm. He's still getting C and R.
I'd be fine with that because my buddy Josh is a Reds fan. So I'll just send it all to him and be like, hey, look at this. And he'll eat it up.
Are you going to send it all to him, or are you going to tell him to go somewhere else for his baseball? Like, Mr. Castellini did the other day. Can someone out there explain to me why teams employ a public relations department and then allow the son of the owner to go on a radio show and absolutely berate the fan base, which has hated his father for years? They absolutely loathe the guy. And he's just like, you don't like what we're doing, leave.
It's ballsy. I got to admit, it's a ballsy move to be like, hey, listen, you don't like it. What are you going to do? Huh?
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of like, he reminds me of like a wannabe Tony Soprano.
Yes.
Where like he thinks he's a tough guy. He's got the slick back hair.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's just like, you're a trust fund baby. You've never worked a day in your life. And you're going to insult the people that pay your salary?
And, you know, the Reds are one of the oldest franchises in baseball. This is not the Tampa Bay Rays. This is not the Colorado Rockies. This is not some expansion team that they just got stuck with a shit owner the first time around.
Right.
This is one of the historic franchises in baseball. This is one of the first franchises that comes to a lot of people's minds when they think of Major League Baseball. It's the Yankees, Red Sox, Dodgers, Cubs, and Reds. Those are the 5, really. And this is like somehow, despite the fact that the Tom Brenneman clip exists, the biggest PR nightmare. Like, I'd say this is a bigger PR nightmare than Pete Rose, because at least he had already gotten over 4,000 hits. It was like, okay, you know, this sucks, but you know, he's not hitting third for us anymore. This guy still runs the day-to-day operation. And he's like, I don't care about you, fans.
And it's not like Pete Rose came out and said, yeah, I bet against the team because I hate the fans. He bet on his team because he thought his team was going to win every game because he thought he was smarter than everybody else. Mm-hmm. This guy's just a jerk.
He's just a prick. That's all. The president of the Cincinnati Reds is an asshole. And
Yep. And so apparently, like father, like son.
Yeah, the apple certainly didn't fall too far from the tree on this one because both those guys suck. And I just love how it was like, because if I'm remembering correctly, the context was like, yeah, you guys didn't spend any money and fans are mad.
Yeah.
And so he was like, yeah, what are they gonna do? Where are they gonna go? Huh?
Exactly. Go somewhere else to get your baseball. You can't.
What are they gonna go to Bearcats games? They're gonna drive over to the University of Cincinnati and watch the Bearcats play a little hardball.
They could drive 3.5 hours to Cleveland.
Yeah, but that's not much better.
No, it's really not. It's really not. I mean, I suppose if you were really desperate, you could go to Chicago.
Yeah, but how many Reds fans are going to?
None, zero, because they probably hate the White Sox and the Cubs.
Yeah, they
and the Pirates
the Cubs
and the Indians, Guardians or whatever they're calling themselves.
There's
like full disclosure, I will continue to call them the Indians till the end of time. It's just ingrained in me.
Fair.
I try. I try to remember. But I'm a guy in his mid-40s who's been up since 5 o'clock in the morning. What do you want from me, people? I'm doing the best I can. This Red Bull, it's like I can't even see it. There it is. This is like water to me. It doesn't have any effect. Zero. A cup of coffee does nothing.
I've started to feel that way about my morning iced tea. I drink iced tea like it's water for the first half of the day. And I've started to feel that effect where it's like, oh man, this caffeine isn't doing anything for me anymore.
Yeah, I don't know, absolutely nothing. Like if I go face first in the middle of this podcast, Mark, you finish it, you take it home, you could rebrand the damn thing because I will be snoring on screen, completely out of the loop.
I would be able to clickbait the hell out of that though.
Oh,
podcast host passes out in the middle of episode. You won't believe what happens next.
That would be that'd be something.
I think
it would be something. It might actually get me to, when I do wake up and see the tweet and see that my snoring, drooling face is going viral on Twitter, I might be inclined to call you a name or two. And I really hope you wouldn't take it the wrong way.
No.
I mean, I might go as far as to call you a motherfucker.
Fair. If you fall asleep in the middle of the podcast and it becomes our most viewed thing by like 1 million, you have the absolute right to call me a motherfucker.
Okay, yeah. And I'm not saying it to be racist. I'm not saying it to be mean. Just like, motherfucker, what'd you do to me? Like, you really are a motherfucker.
You exploitative asshole.
Seriously, like, I'm joking, but I got to get this off my chest. Mm-hmm. Antoine Richardson. Yeah. Okay. This man was best known as the pinch runner who scored the winning run on Derek Jeter's final hit.
That's what I thought because I saw the name and I was like, I think that's the guy that scored on Jeter's walk-off.
Yeah, it's a guy nobody's ever heard of before or until now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was his one moment, that he was a pinch runner who scored on an iconic hit that was not about him at all.
Yeah.
I've been called a lot of things by a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
I've been called a motherfucker by white guys. I've been called a motherfucker by black guys. Been called a motherfucker by Hispanic guys, by Asian guys. Not once did I ever go like, "Oh, you're a racist." Yeah, that has racist undertones. I'll tell you what did have racist undertones. When I was in college, I got out of the shower, and my next door neighbor was standing there and attacked me because he found out I was Jewish. As I'm standing there in a towel and shower shoes. That's racist.
Mm-hmm.
Being called a motherfucker is not racist. And I know this is a sports podcast, but I gotta say it. I am sick and fucking tired of people screaming racism for everything. Because you know what it does? If everyone's a racist, then no one's a racist.
Mhm.
And if everything is offensive, then nothing's offensive. Like, you can't have it both ways. I don't buy Richardson's bullshit explanation. I don't think Mike Schilt had anything to apologize for whatsoever. And I think the fact that, and I'm blocking on her name, and I'm sorry, but the female coach that took his place,
Alyssa Nacken.
yes, thank you. I was going to use Rachel Balkovic, but I knew that wasn't the right name, and I couldn't think of Alyssa's name. Like, that should have been her moment. Like, hey, Antoine Richardson got tossed. We've got a woman coaching first base. Awesome. Great. Long overdue. But instead, we got to talk about this moron trying to make it into something that it wasn't. Am I completely wrong? Like, am I out of my mind here for having this take? Feel free to tell me that I am.
It's a really strange situation for me, because personally, I don't think the term motherfucker has any sort of racial undertones to it. No. I could be wrong with how other people view it. I mean, outside of the fact that Samuel L. Jackson says it 15 times in every movie, I can't understand why it would be associated with one race or another. I thought the more racial thing was the fact that he told Gabe Kapler to get him under control. That was, so Mike Schilt basically said, get him under control. And I think he took that as like, it can control the black guy. Which,
yeah, see, I'm not a black guy, obviously. So maybe I'm off base here. To me, that just means get the fucking coach under control. He's out of control. Get him under control.
It's a very common expression, which is why I'm still like, okay, this is a little bit of a stretch. If that is, his justification as to why, he's saying it had racial undertones to it, I can understand where he's coming from, but at the same time, I don't necessarily agree with it, because you say that, like, hey, get your kid under control. Hey, get your husband under control. Like,
hey, control yourself.
Yeah, control yourself. It's a very common turn of phrase, and the whole situation's weird to me. I personally think, I don't think Mike Schilt meant anything of that way, by that, I don't think he was trying to do anything like that. I think he just used a common turn of phrase, and there might have been some miscommunication. That it could just be miscommunication. That could be all this is, or
it's very possible.
Or it's very well could be we don't know exactly what Mike Schilt said, and it's going to come out that Mike Schilt called him the N-word or something, and then it's like, okay,
that changes everything.
Yeah, obviously. Then it changes everything.
But that's not the story that's being told.
Yeah,
the story is he called me a motherfucker, and I thought it was racist.
Yeah, I just think it's miscommunication, and two people interpreting a phrase and a couple of words different ways. And Antoine basically already said, he was like, listen, I'm not calling him a racist, I just didn't like what he said.
Then you just come out and say, listen, don't say that to me, and that's the end of it.
Yeah, that's basically like, originally he was like, that had racist undertones, I didn't like that, but he then came out and said, like, listen, I'm not calling Mike Schilt a racist. I don't think he's a racist.
Right.
So,
like I just explained, like, I've experienced racism firsthand. I know what racism is. I worked in the NBA for 4 years. I have black friends. I walked around with black players. I hung out with black players. I've seen racism. I've experienced it firsthand. That wasn't it. Like, if you see it, call it out, because there's no place for it anywhere.
Agree.
But, like, my point being, like, just enough with everybody. Everything's racist and everything's offensive. Like, you know what? Fuck you. Because now you're making people who really are the victims of that shit unable to say anything. Enough on that twerp. All right, let's get this over with. We're both disgusted by it. I know we both wanted to vomit yesterday, along with the rest of baseball fans. Is Clayton Kershaw just blowing smoke? Is he towing the company line?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Because that's what I thought. Like, just once, I want Clayton Kershaw to come out and be like, "You damn right, I wanted to stay in the game. Wasn't my choice to come out."
Yeah.
That's all he had to say. Instead, he's like, "Oh, well, it was the right decision," throwing Dave Roberts under the bus. Now, I'm not a Dave Roberts apologist. You know this as well as anyone. I think Dave Roberts is a terrible manager.
I do as
put him
well.
on the. I mean, him and Aaron Boone both went to the same school, as far as I'm concerned. But, like, come on. There's been would you say it was 23 perfect games?
23.
Clayton Kershaw, that's like the one thing Clayton Kershaw's never done.
That's the thing. All right, so, and we can get into why people take the other side of this. And there's one justification I think is fair that I don't agree with, and one that I think is completely asinine.
Okay.
Clayton Kershaw is a perfect game away from having a perfect Major League Baseball career. 3 Cy Young Awards, MVP, World Series ring, no-hitter. In my opinion, the greatest left-handed pitcher to ever step on a baseball diamond. Like, the guy is the only thing he needs to accomplish, because, 300 wins, 3,000 strikeouts, whatever. Like, when
it comes to Kershaw, that doesn't matter.
As great as the round numbers are, none of those matter when it comes to a guy as absolutely elite as Clayton Kershaw.
Right.
Sandy Koufax didn't have 3,000 strikeouts. It doesn't matter, because everyone saw Sandy Koufax and was like, that's unbelievable what this guy can do.
Yeah, right. It's like Jacob deGrom is not going to get to 3,000 strikeouts. No one's ever going to tell you that Jacob deGrom's not one of the best pitchers of his generation.
No. And so Clayton Kershaw, the only thing he has left, now that he's won a World Series, is a perfect game. That's it. It's the only thing left he can accomplish. If he wants to go out there and win the Hank Aaron Award or something, whatever, have at it. If you want to turn into a great hitter late in your career, but I don't see that happening, But as a pitcher, it's the only thing he has left. And I personally feel robbed. I feel like baseball fans, baseball journalists, everyone, sports fans in general. What the? You see that?
Was weird. Yeah, what was that?
My
you
light
just
but my old light bulb died, so I put a new one in, and it's actually a smart bulb, but I don't have it hooked up to be a smart bulb right now, so I don't know.
Well, try not to burst into flames, and because I will exploit the shit out of that.
Oh,
if you're gonna exploit me falling asleep, I will exploit you in flames.
If you think the sleep would get clicks, podcast host spontaneously combusts in the middle of an episode. I mean, we're talking about we're on CNN. We're doing the full press junket.
Well, I am, because you'll be burned.
Yeah, I was gonna say I look like a mummy. I've got so many bandages on me, but back to
that would be great, because then we could do a whole reveal episode where it's like, what does Mark look like now? Tune in Thursday as we unwrap the bandages.
Do you want to see a hideously grotesque human being?
Will he come out looking better or worse than he did going in?
Start taking bets. I've got better. I've got $50 on better. He was ugly as shit before. $50 says his teeth somehow look better.
I got $100 that says he has no lips. Of course his teeth look better.
No lips. I'll take no lips for 500.
Okay, Mr. Castellini, thank you for joining.
Anyway,
back to Kershaw.
Back to Kershaw. I feel robbed. I feel that's the best word I can use to describe how I feel. Is I feel absolutely robbed of having already someone who's in an absolutely elite club when it comes to pitchers joining the most elite club. And
it's like you said, that's the one thing he has left. You're Dave Roberts. You don't get to tell Clayton Kershaw you don't get a shot to do this. No. You let Clayton Kershaw make that call. If Kershaw says, listen, my arm's got nothing left.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Like I'll still feel cheated. I still won't like it, but at least it was Kershaw's choice.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
what are the explanations that you've heard? Because I've only seen one that I was kind of like,
there are two.
Maybe.
The one I've seen the most is you're not trying to win a game April 13th against the Twins. You're
bullshit.
trying to win the World Series.
That's garbage. You need the game against the Twins to win to get to the World Series.
Yes, you do. But okay. If that's your justification for taking your starter out after 7 innings in his first start of the season when he already had 13 strikeouts and you're up 7, I don't hate that. If it wasn't a perfect game, I think that's a fine justification. If we were just talking about even a no-hitter, it's like he's already thrown one of those. He did it against the Rockies,
right?
And that should have been a perfect game, but there was an error. I believe it was an error by Hanley Ramirez, which shocking. Hanley Ramirez made an error.
Yeah, I forgot Hanley Ramirez was a Dodger at one point.
Yeah. But so even if it's a no-hitter, he's already thrown one. He's thrown plenty of complete games. He's thrown plenty of shutouts, like whatever. Perfect games are so different. We talked about this on the Man-Child show today, Paul and I, and he asked me, it was kind of funny. It was like the joke reply you see on like Sports Center tweets where it's like, explain this in NFL terms,
right.
But the most accurate comparison I can come up with is quarterbacks to throw 7 touchdowns in a game. You have Drew Brees, you have Peyton Manning, you have Y.A. Tittle, you have some Hall of Famers, and then you have Nick Foles. Like, that's what a perfect game is it doesn't matter who you are. You can be Philip Umber, who had a 5.8 career ERA and 16 career wins.
Umber.
Yeah. And for one night in Seattle, Philip Umber was the best pitcher in baseball. And so it can happen to anybody, but it can also, they go down in history. For as much great stuff as Randy Johnson did, people remember the perfect game. People remember the fact that he was 40 years old in 2004 and went out there and threw a perfect game against the Braves, who, by the way, had Chipper Jones, Andrew Jones, Javi Lopez, like a great lineup. And went out there and threw a perfect game at the age of 40. People remember that. People remember Roy Halladay for, 2-time Cy Young winner, all of the great things he did. He threw a no-hitter in the postseason. People remember him going out there in Miami that day and carving up the Marlins for 9 innings, and they could not touch him. He had the sinker working. He had the curveball working. Like, people remember Don Larson. Don Larson was not a very good pitcher.
No, he was a mediocre pitcher.
But he threw a perfect game in the biggest stage you can throw a perfect game. And I'm not going to sit here and say that Clayton Kershaw will not be remembered, because he very much will, and he's going to go into the Hall of Fame on his first ballot, hopefully with 100% of the vote, because if you don't vote for Clayton Kershaw, you don't deserve a vote.
Yeah, no, agreed. I mean, this will be a blip on his resume. This isn't going to be a stain.
Yes, this will be a blip, but if it was the perfect game, if it was he was left out there for 9 innings and threw a perfect game, and there's no doubt in my mind he would have. I don't think there's any chance he gives up a hit the way his stuff looked yesterday.
No, they couldn't touch him. They couldn't touch him.
It was 2014 Kershaw. Yesterday was 2014 MVP Cy Young Kershaw again. Yep. And it was beautiful. And so he would have thrown the perfect game. There's no doubt in my mind.
And even if he didn't, he like you said, and like I said, he deserved the chance to try.
He deserved the chance, but it would have been the perfect cap. I thought Clayton Kershaw was going to retire this past offseason. I didn't think he was going to come back. If he threw a perfect game yesterday, after this season, we never see Clayton Kershaw again, because it's the perfect cap to a perfect career. And that's what I wanted.
And if he wound up throwing the perfect game and getting hurt, and he missed a chunk of time, and the Dodgers either didn't make the playoffs or they fell short, you know what? I think Dodgers fans would have been okay with that.
Absolutely.
But Dave Roberts says, listen, yeah, it's not ideal, but Clayton deserved the chance to go get it.
Dodger fans would have been fine with it. Yeah. And that sort of leads me to the second justification I've seen, and this is the one I think is asinine. Everyone that says Johan Santana.
Oh, stop.
Shut the hell up. He had 80 pitches through 7 innings. Johan Santana threw 134. If you think that Clayton Kershaw was going to throw 54 more pitches between the 8th and 9th inning yesterday,
then you didn't watch the game.
You weren't watching the game and you've never watched Clayton Kershaw pitch.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. That's the one I've seen. Someone respond, because this was our poll of the day today for the Man-Child Show, was, should Clayton Kershaw have been pulled? Yes or no? And someone responded and they were like, I remember watching Johan Santana. And I was like, I remember that too. Johan Santana's body was already falling apart before that game. Was it the final nail in the coffin? Probably. Should he have thrown 134 pitches? Probably not. No, Clayton Kershaw max would have thrown 20 more pitches, probably.
Right, but you know what? Even though it ended Santana's career, essentially, I don't blame the manager. He let Johan go for it.
It's the only no-hitter in Mets history. And that was a no-hitter, not a perfect game. So,
yes,
but it's the only no-hitter in Mets history. Mets fans are still so elated that Johan Santana was able to deliver them a no-hitter. I mean, this is the team, Tom Seaver, Doc Gooden, Ron Darling, like all the great pitchers they had, and no one Ryan. No one had ever achieved a no-hitter for that franchise. And that's a great moment that Mets fans will always have. And most of them, if you ask them, if you were to ask them, do you think Johan should have been taken out of that game? They'd say no, he threw a no-hitter.
Yeah, like, what are you, crazy?
Yeah. It's one of the best memories a lot of Met fans have is Johan.
It might be the only memory that some Mets fans have.
Yeah.
Up until, Uncle Steve took over.
Mm-hmm. But it's just the entire situation. It leaves a bad taste in my mouth. The fact that Dave Roberts took Clayton Kershaw out of that game. It really does.
No, it really bothered me when that happened. I really wish he would have gotten a shot. The other thing that I've seen thrown out there, I guess it's kind of along the same lines as what you mentioned, was that, he really didn't have a spring training. It was, his first start, yada, yada, yada. But my response to that is he's Clayton Kershaw. He knows his body better than anyone else. Mm-hmm. He'll tell Dave Roberts when he needs to come out.
There's between that and, it's funny. Kershaw said himself, he was like, yeah, I've thrown 75 pitches in a sim game. The whole point of, spring training and the early part of the season is ramping up. If your ramping up is going from 75 pitches to 80, so you'll be fully ready by the middle of June? Like, you're just going to go up, 5 pitches, like, every other start or whatever? Like, that it seemed like a weird justification from Kershaw. It seemed like a justification where Dave Roberts was like, mention the fact that all you've thrown in a sim game so far is 75 pitches.
Yeah, like, I don't know. Just nothing about it sits right with me.
Even if he had 95 pitches, I'd be like, okay, you know what? It's his first start of the season. That happens. 80 is such a low number.
Yeah, especially for a veteran. Like, that's nothing.
For a guy like him, 80 pitches is absolutely nothing. I mean, in high school, like we would throw 115 pitches. Like, when I was far from a professional athlete, and there were times that I threw over 100 pitches. Like, it's just like, I hate it. The title of this episode is Fire Dave Roberts. I don't think Dave Roberts should actually be fired. That is the title.
That's fine. I sign off on that.
I don't think he should actually be fired. The guy won a World Series, which certainly wasn't his doing. He still managed that postseason poorly.
Yeah, let's be honest. Like, they won the World Series in spite of Dave Roberts, not because of Dave Roberts.
Exactly. I mean, but something else I've seen too is it was Chris Castellani. I almost said Castellini. Very similar last names. Chris Castellani. He works for Barstool now. But he's a big Detroit Tigers guy, but all around baseball fan. But his team is the Tigers. Great Twitter follow if you're a Tigers fan, because I don't think there's a single more passionate Tigers fan on the planet. And he said, like, the thing is, you know that he's doing this just so he can throw Kershaw for 3 innings out of the bullpen in the postseason on 2 days rest where he's going to get shelled.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's what Dave Roberts does. He's saving him right now for NLDS Game 3, where he thinks it's a good idea to throw Clayton Kershaw out there on short rest out of the bullpen, and he's going to give up a go-ahead home run in the 10th inning.
Yeah, he's worried about 5.5 months from now.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more, because Dave Roberts has no idea how to manage a bullpen, despite the fact he's got the deepest bullpen in baseball. He loves to do shit like that, where he's like, all right, Clayton, let's see what you got. It's like, no. Throw Tony Gonsolin out there, not Clayton Kershaw.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
and not
Kershaw's not the guy that you play around with.
Yeah, and not because you saved him 2 innings on April 13th.
Well, I mean, bad managers are going to do what bad managers do, and Dave Roberts is on that Mount Rushmore for sure, along with Aaron bleeping Boone
and 2022 Tony La Russa.
Well, yeah, this version, the second coming of Tony La Russa, he can go away again. I've had it, and honestly, I think the second coming of Joe Madden can go back to where he was, because I'm not overly impressed with what he's done in Anaheim.
I still can't believe he had Matt Duffy clean up on opening day.
That's what I'm talking about. Like, you have Mike Trout, Shohei Ohtani, Anthony Rendon, and then Matt Duffy.
And Jared Walsh is there. Joe Adell is there.
Brandon you got Jared. Right. Like, you got those 3 young guys who all have pop.
Yeah.
And you choose Matt Duffy.
You choose the 33-year-old who's never hit more than like 9 home runs in a season to hit cleanup.
Yeah, like, just it's so bad. Like, the bad guys are so bad.
I'm sorry. Lineup construction is getting way too cute. Like,
you don't got to tell me. I watch Yankee games every night. Yeah. It's a different lineup every night.
That's part of why I hate Aaron. Like, I get it. You want your guys that are going to get on base. You want them as close to the top of the lineup as you can get. Yada, yada, yada. Josh Donaldson is not a leadoff hitter. Like, plain and simple. The fact that you don't want that guy driving in Judge and Stanton is wild to me. Like, there's so many ways to construct a lineup better than Joe Madden and Aaron Boone do. And guess what? It's the way that's worked for like 150 years.
Yeah, well, nope, because they're going to reinvent the game. Those 2 brain surgeons.
Yep.
Yeah, like, no, look, yeah, you're right, 100% right. Josh Donaldson is not a leadoff hitter. Anthony Rizzo is not a leadoff hitter.
No.
Aaron Judge is not a leadoff hitter. But those are the leadoff. Oh, and Joey Gallo is not a leadoff hitter. But those are the leadoff hitters the Yankees have used.
They used Joey Gallo?
I think they did at least at one point. I could be wrong on that one. Don't quote me on that.
Not only,
but still, they've definitely used Judge. They've definitely used Judge. They've definitely used Rizzo.
And they've definitely used
Donaldson.
Like, at least the other 3 make some semblance of contact. Like, I know Joey Gallo's got a lot of power and he'll get on base. I don't want a guy that's going to hit 180 leading off for me.
I don't want a guy who's got a history of leg injuries leading off for me either. But that's what you got with Donaldson.
Mm-hmm.
A guy who consistently has calf issues.
Yeah.
And leg issues. So, yeah, that's a good idea. Let's have him get on base. So when the heart of the order comes up, he can pull something rounding the bases, trying to score on a double into the corner.
Yeah.
Just stupid people. And I feel like we've been negative this entire episode. With just talking about, like just talking about stupid people. Whether it's, Castellini and Son, whether it's Dave Roberts, whether it's Aaron Boone, whether it's the clown in San Francisco. Like, I feel like we have to at least try and finish things on a positive spin.
Okay.
Mackenzie Gore.
Yes.
He's finally here. I feel like we've been hearing about him forever.
Yeah.
And okay, if you're a Padres fan, I guess this could be a negative because Mackenzie Gore is coming up because Blake Snell, shocker, is hurt again.
Can't believe it. I've never been in more disbelief than I am over Blake Snell landing on the injured list. I mean,
you're
who would have thought?
You're more of a better than I am. Could you have found odds on will Blake Snell last a month before he lands on the injured list?
If that was a bet I legally could have taken, I would have put the house on it.
Yeah, that's
will Blake Snell hit the injured list by May 15th, let's say, like halfway through the second month. I would have put the house on yes, he would have.
Yeah, it's I don't know, I'm not sure when Snell was supposed to start.
Let's see.
So I don't know when we'll be seeing Gore on the mound.
Friday, tomorrow.
Oh.
Rick? Oh no, we lost Rick for a second. Did we lose everything? I don't think we lost it. Oh, Jesus. Okay, so the Twitch is still good. Rick, we have lost you for a second. I'm going to take you out of there until you come back in a minute. But yeah, Mackenzie Gore will be starting for the San Diego Padres tomorrow. Gore obviously was the top pitching prospect in baseball for a little bit. I don't believe he's still listed as the top pitching prospect in baseball. He was the number 3 pick in the 2017 draft. Big lefty who is absolutely filthy. Oh boy, Rick is like gone. Let's see if he rejoins us. Big lefty, super hard fast, like throws mid to upper 90s. I want to say lives probably 95, 97. Big slider, and I love his changeup too. He's, like Rick said, we've been waiting so long for this. We've been waiting so long for Blake Snell to finally come around and be the guy that we all thought he was going to be. And he's still rather young, I believe. I'm going to look this, or not Blake Snell, Mackenzie Gore. We already know what Blake Snell is. He's an injury-prone lefty. But Mackenzie Gore, he's still 23 years old. So still young enough, still has all of the potential in the world. And it's about time we get to see this guy make his major league debut because, like I said, it's sometimes with how hyped up prospects get, it is interesting to see how long it takes them to make the major leagues. Rick has texted me saying he can't get back in. I am just going to send him another link here and see if this works. We'll see how much of this, or no, I won't cut this out because it automatically posts to YouTube. We'll see if I cut it out of the audio version. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. See, is there anything else going on besides Mackenzie Gore while we wait for Rick? Oh, Brian Reynolds signed a 2-year deal with the Pirates to avoid arbitration. It was worth $13 million, I believe. I mean, that guy's really good. They're going to trade him in like 2 months, so good for him for getting his money right now. But I hope they trade him. I'm tired of Pittsburgh wasting these guys' careers. They've done it in recent years, and it's just, I don't know, man. Like, just trade him, get him out of there. Pittsburgh, fold your franchise or something. I don't know. The Pirates are a joke right now, which sucks because I know Pirates fans are so passionate, and I know some Pirates fans, and they love the team, and they loved Kutch, and they loved Jameson Tyone and all these guys. As it appears, is he back? Maybe. Take him out of there for now. once I see his little picture pop up, I will add him back and he can break down the Mackenzie Gore thing even more. Yeah, Pirates are a joke. This is so weird. I don't know what's going on here. Well, he didn't fall asleep, but we did lose Rick, and he's gone again. Fantastic. I love technology. It is so good. Anything else going on in baseball right now? I don't know. I believe Rick just texted me, but I can't check. Oh, he DM'd me on Twitter. That's the wrong account. Boop. No, it was the right account. All right. So I think I'm just going to close it out then. Because I'm not seeing much. Oh, there was one thing that I wanted to bring up. Because it's so nice. And I meant to bring it up when we were talking about the Twins. But it is so nice. See this guy. Byron Buxton has been playing out of his absolutely out of his mind. And it's so nice to see him healthy and playing good baseball. This guy is so talented, and I hope to God he stays healthy, because if he does, he's one of the best overall players in baseball. And I don't think that's an exaggeration. So shout out Byron Buxton for looking great so far this season. I mean, he had a home run in 3 straight at bats. The guy is just absolutely mashing to start the season. So good on Byron Buxton. And I'm going to close out the show. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. This has been What's in the Box Score with Rick Weiner. Rick Weiner no longer here. Episode 19, live here on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. All of our social media links are listed below. You can go and follow us there. Make sure to subscribe, like the video on YouTube, leave a comment, hit the notification bell, all that good stuff. Follow us on Twitch. That's twitch.tv/boxscorepod. Not like the Twitter. There's no underscores in there. I'm marker_box. Rick is at Rick Weiner NY, and the show Twitter is at box_score_pod. So make sure to follow us on all the social medias. You can check us out on Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. I believe we're on Apple now as well. I will double check that. But thank you, everybody, so much for tuning in. We will see you next week to continue breaking down the Major League Baseball season. Peace.